Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show.
4 whole days, Lin You spent his time hunting monsters and investigating the situation of the Demon King's army. Thanks to the migration of the Demon King's army, he successfully killed many leader-level monsters. Finally, on the afternoon of the 4th day, I obtained the last legendary fragment. Congratulations! You have collected 10 legendary troop token fragments. Do you want to combine them? Finally, it's all together. Lin You took a deep breath, his eyes full of excitement and a little tangled at the same time. Because these legendary fragments are random, they can be randomly synthesized into any series of troop tokens. There was a 1/10th chance of hitting the plant system, and he really couldn't guarantee his luck. If he randomly gets one from another department, he will have to go to the Lord to change it. But the problem is that in a remote town like Demon Town, the strongest level is only level 10. There is really no guarantee that anyone can come up with a token of this level. After hesitating for a long time, he finally responded, "Synthesis." When the sound sounded, the 10 fragments in his hand and personal space immediately flew up and gradually combined into a dark golden token wrapped in a ray of light. Lin Yu's heart also rose to his throat. Congratulations, the synthesis is successful. Obtain plant-based unit token, Fantasy God Grass, Legendary, Magic Grass. Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, his expression uncertain. The name is 3 words, and it is a grass-type unit. Is it the high-level form of proliferating grass? If that were the case, it would be a huge profit. Before coming to God's domain, he had only studied the multiplication grass to the 11th level, and had never seen what the form above the 12th level looked like. Immediately took the token that flew down and checked its attributes. Military token, Fantasy God Grass, Legendary, Weapon Race, Plant Type, Army Level, Level 12. Introduction. After use, you can unlock the plant-based legendary weapon, Fantasy God Grass. Use requirements, 12th level territory, 12th level Law Crystal X10. Sure enough, it's botanical. Unexpectedly, he hit the target directly with one shot. His luck was really not that good. It's a pity that the specific attributes and skills can't be seen just from the token. I don't know if it is the advanced form of the multiplication grass. Forget it, let's go back and take a look first. Now that the legendary token is in hand, Lin Yu still has the heart to stay here. After taking a look at the sun that had already set in the sky, he immediately recalled his troops and flew back towards the demon-suppressing city on his Qianlong. After level 2 quasi-god, Qianlong's speed has increased again. In just about an hour, he passed through the jungle outside the demon-suppressing city and returned to the territory. As soon as it hit the ground, Lin Yu couldn't wait to come to the world tree and take out the legendary token he just got. Would you like to use Huanxing Grass? Legendary? Yes. With a response, the token turned into a dark golden stream of light and disappeared into the world tree, and at the same time, there was a prompt that the unit was successfully unlocked. Without hesitation, he directly opened the interface and found the newly unlocked Magic God Grass. Recruiting 12th level troops requires the consumption of Law Crystal X1. Do you want to continue? Fortunately, the price of the legendary level is still 1 crystal. Lin Yu immediately chose to recruit. Then the light lit up, and a cluster of unattractive grass appeared in front of him, and he quickly checked its properties. Name, Fantasy God Grass, Legendary. Race Plant. Level 12. Level 2 Quasi-God. Power, 2.5 million. Physique, 2.5 million. Agility, 2.5 million. Spirit, 2.5 million. Skill, Tempering. The blade of grass turns into a hard blade, causing 100% spiritual damage to all enemies passing by. Infinite Proliferation. Continues to consume the power of nature to split into countless copies with the same attributes and skills, and can switch between the original body and the copies at will. The number of divisions is determined by energy consumption. Flying Leaf Sword Dance. Leaves of grass are separated from the body, causing 100% spiritual attribute damage to enemies within 100 meters, and reducing the amount of healing received by the enemy by 25%. Life Sharing. The original body and the clone share life. All damage received is shared equally, and can be lifted at any time. Power of Origin. Basic attributes increased by 5%, full value 25%. Introduction. Wildfires never burn out, and the spring breeze blows and grows again. The Magic God Grass has extremely strong regeneration ability. As long as the main body is still there, it can continue to multiply. It is really an advanced form of multiplication grass. Looking at the interface in front of him, Lin Yu's eyes lit up. This was definitely one of the most wanted mutant embryos. And what surprised him even more, the 12th level Magic God Grass multiplies infinitely, and has been strengthened. it can actually switch between the original body and the copy at will. Doesn't this mean that when a unit suffers heavy damage, the main body can be directly switched to the clone, allowing the clone to become the real body? This is simply like the soul transfer method, which is equivalent to having several lives at once. It is indeed the most tenacious grass-based unit. No need to waste time. Immediately try to use mutation on it. Mutation of the 12th level troops requires the consumption of Law Crystal X1. Do you want to continue? It's not 10 yuan or 100 yuan. He originally thought that units with higher potential would consume more Law Crystals, but he didn't expect that it would still be the same. This is good news for him. After all, he has only collected about 4,000 12th order crystal stones in the past few days. Without hesitation, he immediately answered, "Go on. Please choose to retain skills and attributes. Retain unlimited proliferation and random attributes." As soon as the voice fell, the magic god grass in front of him was wrapped in a ray of light, and his body changed rapidly. After a while, an ice-type pea shooter with 2 heads, which inherited the characteristics of the magic god grass, was covered in grass leaves, appeared in front of him. The mutation is successful, the arms evolve, and the potential is increased to the extraordinary level. Current unit, Extreme Ice Archer, Extraordinary level. Lin You was shocked when he heard the prompt in his mind. Although he had been mentally prepared for it, when the potential of the troops increased, he was still extremely excited, and he quickly clicked on the attributes of the troops to check. Name, Extreme Ice Shooter, Extraordinary. Race, Plant. Level 12, Level 2 Quasi-God. Power, 5.28 million. Physique, 5.39 million. Agility, 4.95 million. Spirit, 5.5 million. Skills, Infinite Proliferation, Pea Shooting, Pea Filling, Ice Transformation, Attack with Ice Attribute, 5% chance of freezing the enemy, lasting 5 seconds. Ice Explosion, increased damage to frozen enemies by 15%. Power of Origin, basic attributes increased by 10%, full value 50%. Introduction, a mutated pea with extremely strong long-range strike capabilities. It is also one of the few plants that is close to frost. Sure enough, as he knew, the upper limit of the extraordinary level's potential is 50%, which is twice as high as that of the legendary level. The level 2 quasi-god attributes are directly different by 5%, and the gap will get wider and wider. Come, let's see how it grows, Lin You said to the jibing shooter in front of him. With the changes in world rules and changes in skills, he was not sure whether infinite proliferation would have the same effect as before. It would be better to give it a try. After receiving his order, Jibing Archer immediately activated his multiplication skills and quickly split into an identical individual. Then, there's no after that. It can only be split once. Lin You was puzzled. Through spiritual contact, he could feel that after the Jibing Archer split into a copy, it had reached the upper limit of what it could maintain. If it continues to split any longer, it will only be unable to support itself, and the replica will lose its energy supply and collapse. It seems that as the level increases, the energy required to maintain the clone also increases. But even if you can only multiply one, this skill is still very powerful. Not only can the number be doubled, but 1 extra life can be gained for free. The life-saving ability is much better than the previous multiplication skills. Unless the original body and the clone are killed at the same time, as long as the energy is restored quickly enough, his troops can multiply indefinitely and have countless lives. He is simply an invincible Xiaoqiang. From this point of view, the Liankui royal family is even more imminent and must be obtained as soon as possible, so as to greatly increase the energy recovery speed of his troops. Okay, continue mutating. With his goal in mind, Lin You suddenly became very motivated, recruiting new magic god grass to continue mutating, and planned to use the 12th level law crystals to create 2,000 extraordinary soldiers. It can also be regarded as a stepping stone for the royal family and accumulation of character. He was very familiar with this method when playing card drawing games in the past. So soon, he mutated the phantom grass into various combat types, and the manner gradually became lively. The mutation is successful, the hidden effect of the mutation ability is triggered, and the arms awaken the royal bloodline. Unexpectedly, just when he mutated to nearly 1,500 times, a strange reminder suddenly sounded in his mind, causing him to freeze on the spot, and then his eyes suddenly opened wide. Royal family. He suddenly became a member of the royal family. To know what he retains is the infinite proliferation skill. When he was in Wanji, he used this skill to mutate tens of thousands of times, but he never appeared in the royal family. He didn't expect that he could do it here. Have an infinitely proliferating royal family? Is it because the rules have changed? Without giving him a chance to think about it, the reminder sounded immediately. Congratulations, you have obtained a new unit, Sun Moon Kui, royal family. The royal arms have reached the upper limit, and no more arms of this level can be obtained. Hearing this reminder, Lin You felt that all his luck in this life had been used up. The royal family of Liankui actually appeared. Although his royal family has basically produced almost all of them, there are only a few units left that can produce royal families. But when the royal family of Li Yongkui suddenly emerged, he was both surprised and delighted. In this way, the gap in his energy recovery has finally been completely filled, and with other royal families performing their respective duties, it is definitely the most ideal team combination. When the light dissipated and a soldier covered by grass and nearly twice the size of an ordinary sunflower appeared in front of him, a brand new attribute interface also came into Lin Yu's eyes. Name: Sun Moon Kui, Royal Family, Race Plant, Level 12, Level 2 Quasi-God, Power 5.7 million, Physique 5.88 million, Agility 5.64 million, Spirit 6 million, Skills: Infinite Proliferation, Photosynthesis, condensing the power of nature to instantly restore 25% of the energy of designated allies. Sunlight, casts a small sun, causing all friendly parties within 1 kilometer to recover 1% energy every second for 30 seconds. Lunar Eclipse, casts a crescent moon, burning all enemies within 1 kilometer, causing the enemies to lose 1% energy per second, and causing 3% penetration damage of mental attributes, lasting 30 seconds. The sun and moon shine together. When the sun and moon exist at the same time, the effects of all skills are doubled. Power of origin, basic attributes increased by 20%, full value 100%. Introduction: a plant that can control the power of the sun and the moon. Under the light of the sun and the moon, it can explode with extremely strong combat and auxiliary abilities. As expected, Li Yingkui's royal family focuses on energy recovery, and the effect of the skill is more powerful than Lin You expected, especially the two large-scale skills Sunlight and Lunar Eclipse. One continuously restores one's own energy, and the other continuously consumes the enemy's energy, while causing 3% penetrating damage per second. With one addition and one subtraction, the suppressive power is absolutely amazing. It can even make it impossible for the opponent to use skills. What's more important is the last skill, the sun and the moon. When the sun and moon exist at the same time, the effects of all skills are doubled. That is, photosynthesis can restore 50% of the power of the law at once. Solar and lunar eclipse restores 2% of energy per second, consumes 2% of the enemy's energy, and causes damage increased to 6%. In the state of infinite proliferation, if you cast skills together with the clone, the effect will be superimposed again, that is, 4% energy and 12% damage per second. It only takes about 8 seconds to kill all enemies of the same level within 1 kilometer. Unless you have the means to recover, you can only wait for death or escape from the range of the skill. With such a powerful recovery method, his time rule can be extended to more than 20 seconds, finally solving the problem of energy overdraft every time he uses up. Since your race is Sun and Moon Kua, let's call you Star Kua. Lin Yu thought for a while and gave the new royal family a name so that it would be easier to recognize. Thank you, Master, for the name. The huge sunflower buds of Xingkui slowly bent down and bowed slightly. Her voice is very soft, and she sounds like she has a reserved temperament, which complements the other royals. No gifts. Lin Yu nodded towards her, then took her to the hero transformation pool that he had recreated before, and began to transform her. The conversion of troops to heroes requires the consumption of law crystals of the same level X25. Do you want to continue? Fortunately, transforming heroes requires the same level of law crystals as recruiting mutant troops. It seems that law crystals have many uses here, and they are definitely the most important resource. No hesitation, choose to convert immediately. The next second, the light lit up, completely enveloping Xingkua's body, and her breath also changed subtly. Transformation successful. Sun Moon Kua Shin Kua awakens exclusive talent. Sun and Moon Replacement. Replacement of Sun and Moon talent. When Sun or lunar eclipse is present, the area damage received by all sunflower units is reduced by 25%. It's actually group damage reduction. Lin Yu's eyes lit up. Auxiliary units like Xingkui, who have large-scale field control killing skills, are definitely the easiest to target, and they are basically the targets of priority. But it's different after having this talent. As long as the enemy cannot rush behind him, a large-scale attack will basically not drop Starflower, or even other sunflower units. This is definitely one of the most suitable skills for auxiliary arms. Only the Forest Sage's Natural Harmony, a bug skill, can stabilize one end. Okay, let's go get acquainted with them. Lin Yu can be said to be quite satisfied with Xingkua's abilities. After saying something to her, he came to the World Tree, and used the remaining 12th level law crystals to continue mutating extraordinary soldiers. I wonder if the sudden royal family used up all their luck. More than 4,000 law crystals were spent, and not a single mutation skill appeared. The only thing worth celebrating is that the number of combat units is quite gratifying. There are more than 2,200 types of arms, and 2,000 of them are the advanced forms of his most commonly used arms. Ancient trees, flower essences, mushrooms, vines, piranha, peas, cactus, dandelions, sunflowers, lanterns, emerald dragons, dark blue dreams, nuts. Looking at the large area of plants that had doubled in number in front of him, Lin You was filled with emotions. Unknowingly, he already had so many types of arms, and they were all extraordinary. Even if other 12th level lords have extraordinary level arms, they probably only have 2 or 3 types. This is also one of his advantages. There are many types of soldiers, which makes it easier to deal with various battles. It's time to set off to a larger city to find out about other great emperors and the forces behind motion. I don't know how they are doing now. If there was anyone he could trust the most in the realm of God, it would probably be the people who came from all realms with him, especially Emperor Xinyao and Yan Lai. If possible, he naturally hopes to find them quickly, so that they can take care of them and exchange information with each other. He always feels the mastermind behind sending people to destroy all realms is not as simple as just one pantheon. After all, even the master of the pantheon is only at the peak of the 13th level, and it is impossible for him to participate in the battle for the origin world of a main god. That is to say, there is someone else behind the scenes. Being at the core of the world, he must be more careful. However, it was not his style to sit back and wait for death, so he chose to take the initiative and go to larger cities to find out information and improve his strength at the same time. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you be fully prepared. That's all he plans to do right now. Counting the time, it should be here tomorrow, right? After taking a look at the darkening sky, Lin You murmured to himself, if you want to know more about the Pantheon, the best way is naturally to start from the top of the Pantheon. Isn't there a level 9 quasi-god coming over recently? This might be his chance. It seems like he needs to make more preparations. After thinking about it, he clicked on various interfaces and started operating them. A night of silence. When the sun rose the next day, the demon town that had been silent all night became lively again. In the distant sky, a team riding flying mounts suddenly appeared and quickly approached the southern city wall. Coming on the city wall, Bai Shangting led a group of men to wait early to greet him. Seeing the Pantheon flag hanging in front of the team, everyone was shocked and immediately rushed forward. Then in a howling wind, large amounts of dust were rolled up on the walls of the Pantheon. Bai Shangting, the Lord of Villain Town Demon City, welcomes Deacon Joe. Bai Shangting bowed his hands and shouted loudly. Although he is a person infiltrated by other forces, he is still a member of the Pantheon in name, so he still needs to have the proper etiquette. Are you Bai Shangting? A lazy voice sounded, and Zhou Fang, who was dozing on the recliner, slowly stood up and looked down at the people below, and finally his eyes fell on Bai Shangting. As the third elder's confidant, he naturally knew some secrets. He knew that the third elder did not like Bai Shangting, and his eyes could not help but be sharp. I am the one who told you what to say to the deacon. Bai Shangting was secretly shocked, but his expression remained unchanged, and he buried his body deeper respectfully. He has been the city lord for so many years, so he naturally knows how to survive. So he kept his posture to the lowest level from the beginning as expected. Seeing him like this, Zhou Fang's expression finally softened a little. Okay, no courtesy at all. As he said that, he looked towards the city below and took a brief glance. You must have received the message I sent a few days ago, right? Take me to see the person who has awakened the legendary level. The words were full of undoubted meaning. Bai Shangting had long expected that he would say this. After hesitating for a moment, he finally said, my lord, you don't know something. The person who awakened the legendary military force is none other than my little girl Bai Lingsu. Is she your daughter? Zhou Fang was obviously surprised. The entourage on the side quickly said, sir, the document does indicate that the person is the daughter of the lord of the demon-suppressing city. Obviously, Zhou Fang didn't read any information about those legendary geniuses on the way. So after hearing this, I was even more surprised and couldn't help but look at Bai Shangting a few more times. The genius lords of the angel family are the key recruitment targets of their pantheon. Although the third elder doesn't like Bai Shangting, he is still the biological father of the third elder's granddaughter. If Zhou Fang can achieve the position of deacon, it is naturally impossible for him to be as arrogant as he appears and to die directly. Since she is your daughter, then take me to see her. The third elder has made it clear that she must be brought back to the city of all gods. He deliberately bit the word, third elder, a little harder, causing the hunched over Bai Shangting's expression to change slightly, but he immediately recovered as before, and said respectfully, "Sir, you are joking. The entire demon suppression city belongs to the Pantheon, and my daughter is no exception." He didn't agree to let them take his daughter away, but let him go. Zhou Fang took a deep look at him, and said nothing more. He raised his arm and the entire team took off again, led by Bai Shangting and others, flying towards the city lord's palace. Unexpectedly, not long after flying, Zhou Fang's eyes were suddenly attracted by a giant tree on the northern outskirts of the city, and he let out a light sigh. "Whose territory is that place?" "Sir, that is a quasi-god, who is tired of fighting and lives here in seclusion," Bai Shangting replied without changing his expression. This was not what he meant, but what Lin You asked him to say. "Quasi-god." "Yes." Bai Shangting smiled bitterly. "You also know that people of this level are not something that a little city lord like me can afford to offend." "Interesting." Zhou Fang raised his eyebrows, but he didn't expect that a person of this level would appear here, and he would live in seclusion in such a remote town. After silently looking at the north direction of the city for a while, he winked at a stern man next to him. The man nodded to him, and in a blink of an eye, he turned into a wisp of breeze and disappeared into the team. He seemed to be very proficient in hiding, yet no one noticed. At this time, clusters of dandelion seeds that were difficult to see with the naked eye were flying in the sky, clinging to their bodies and those of their soldiers, like cotton wool floating in the air. They were brought all the way to the city lord's mansion in the center of Demon Suppression City the other side. After a period of space distortion, the stern man, who left the team, had also arrived near the manor on the northern outskirts of the city, secretly inquiring. The method he used at this time was the wind hidden skill only available to the legendary wind spirit troops, which allowed him to completely blend into the breeze, making it seem as if he had completely disappeared, and his strength has reached the level of a level 2 quasi-god. Even in front of a level 5 quasi-god, he was confident that he would not be discovered, so he dared to get so close to explore the situation. But what surprised him was, at this time, there was nothing in the manor except a world tree that symbolized the core of the territory, not even a shadow of a soldier. Confused, he carefully landed on the ground and sneaked into the manor quietly. "Now that you're here, don't leave." Suddenly, a calm voice sounded in the manor. "Who?" The man was shocked and looked around suddenly. At this time, he was in a hidden state. It stands to reason that no one should be able to discover his whereabouts unless the strength reaches level 5 or above, quasi-god, or, thinking of this, the man's pupils shrank and he retreated towards the outside of the manor without hesitation. Boom! But at this moment, a loud noise came. On the ground around the entire manor, large vines of all sizes suddenly appeared, surrounding the entire manor. On the branches of the world tree, pea heads were exposed, and dense blue rose thorns spread out towards the manor. Not even the plant itself was visible. Damn it! Seeing this, the man didn't know that he had been ambushed. He was puzzled. He had just arrived at Demon Suppression City. How could the other party know about it in advance and set up an ambush here? There was no time to think about it, and he immediately summoned a large group of legendary 5-element elements troops and rushed towards the outside of the manor. But what greeted him was Tiangsu turning upside down, and the manor in front of him gradually turned into a blue garden, surrounded by strange thorns. It is the illusion skill of the extraordinary Deep Blue Dream. They are both level 2 quasi-gods. So how can a man with legendary attributes be an extraordinary opponent, suppressed by the powerful mental attributes? He was instantly attacked, and fell into an illusion. "Burn them all for me." The man didn't panic, he shouted loudly, and the fire master beside him immediately burst into blazing flames. Under the hurricane of Feng Zun's troops, it turned into a flame tornado, burning all the surrounding thorns, and finally broke free from the illusion. The outer earth elements activate rock shields to resist pea shots from above. However, no matter how he attacked, there were still more and more vines and thorns in the manor, frantically surrounding them from all directions, like terrifying snakes. At this time, on the outside of the encirclement, a sun and a crescent moon slowly rose into the sky, and 2 rays of light, one white and one black, suddenly bloomed, covering all the elemental soldiers. What happened? The man was horrified. He found that under the illumination of those 2 rays of light, a strong burning sensation invaded his body, burning his body and internal organs crazily. What's even worse is, the energy of all his arms decreased at a speed that was noticeable to the naked eye. It decreased by more than half in a short time, and he could not even activate his major skills. Without the support of skills, the elemental soldiers were suddenly defeated, entangled in a large number of vines, or shot through the core by peas, and fell to the ground in pieces. What a terrifying skill. What kind of army is this? Your Excellency, forgive me, I just broke in here unintentionally. Please give our Pantheon some face. Seeing that his army was completely defeated, the man finally panicked. He quickly looked around and begged loudly for mercy, even using the name of the Pantheon. However, How did he know that Lin Yu's goal was originally the Pantheon? It's okay if he doesn't say it. After saying that, it gave Lin Yu even more reason to take action. The savage roar was activated, and the attributes of all the plants suddenly surged, finally successfully defeating the man's last line of defense. The man was accidentally blasted dozens of meters away, vomiting blood, and fell to the ground. Then a large number of vines rushed out, tied him up, and pushed him to the ground. The man struggled desperately, but he was seriously injured, and could not break free from the shackles of the ivy. In the end, he had to be tightened tighter and tighter, unable to move. Until then, Lin Yu, who was hiding aside, slowly appeared, and came to the man. Trespassing on my territory without permission is very courageous. He was condescending and looked at the other party with interest. Who are you? How dare you go against our pantheon? Aren't you afraid of being hunted down by us? The man shouted in shock and glared at Lin Yu with bloodshot eyes. However, in the next second, his head was pushed back by the vines and hit the ground with a bang, smashing all over. Taking this opportunity, Lin Yu explored the information about him and the corpses of the soldiers. Then I was surprised to find that people at the same level could not check each other's specific attributes and skills, but he could see the opponent's basic information and level, and he happened to be a level 2 quasi-god just like himself. The same goes for arms. You can see the potential level of the opponent's arms. For example, the arms of the guy in front of me are basically all legendary level, and his strength can only be considered average in the 12th level. Is this already the outer deacon of the Pantheon? Lin Yu raised his eyebrows and said, if you want to survive, you can answer whatever I ask, otherwise I don't mind using you to feed my little cuties. As the voice fell, piranha flowers with their mouths full of fangs surrounded them, and there were vine tentacles with spikes on the side that were constantly swimming. Unexpectedly, instead of submitting, the man smiled disdainfully. It's useless. If I don't go back for too long, someone stronger will come over soon. I advise you to let me go, otherwise be prepared to be hunted down by our pantheon. Oh, a stronger person. You mean the guy named Zhou Feng? Long before, Lin Yu had heard news about Zhou Feng from Bai Shengting, and I had just sensed the other person's aura through the dandelion seeds, so I wasn't surprised. Do you know Deacon Zhou? Seeing Lin Yu say Zhou Feng's name at once, the man couldn't help but be shocked, but immediately his expression darkened. So what? Do you think you will be Deacon Zhao's opponent based on your strength? Let me tell you, Deacon Zhao's troops are all extraordinary. Just when he raised his eyes, the man had already detected Lin Yu's level. He was a level 2 quasi-god like himself. To be able to possess such a strong strength, the soldiers must be of extraordinary level, and he also has a very powerful explosive method, which made him miss and be captured. But so what? A mere level 2 quasi-god, no matter how powerful he is, cannot be a match for a level 9 quasi-god unless he possesses the legendary royal arms. But is this possible? To know, even in the entire pantheon, only the temple master has a royal family, and there is only one, and that was obtained by the palace master at great cost. What can a 12th level lord do to fight with them? This is also the reason why men are so confident. He thought that Lin Yu did not dare to kill him, and at most he only threatened and intimidated him. So there is no royal family. It makes me worry in vain. Puff. The calm voice, accompanied by a large exploding blood flower, reached the man's ears at the same time. He widened his eyes and looked at the bloody vines running through his chest in disbelief. Eventually his vision went dark, and he completely lost consciousness. Lin Yu looked in surprise, looking at the corpse that had been drained of blood. There was no kill prompt in his ears, and even the god head in his body dissipated directly. There is no reward for killing the Lord. The rules of this world are really friendly. Just as Lin Yu was sighing, a faint light finally shone on the man's body. I don't know if it was because of the death of the host, but his personal space was compressed rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it was compressed into a round crystal ball, which fell from the air to the ground. Resource ball. Lin Yu looked happy. Although he heard Bai Shengting say this, he was still extremely surprised. He immediately took the ball and took a look. Sure enough, it was something he was familiar with. Name, resource ball. Level 12. Introduction, a storage space that contains all the resources in the previous host's personal space. It disappears after use and the resources inside are obtained. Killing a lord can directly obtain everything in the opponent's personal space. Isn't this the same as licking your bag after death? Without hesitation, he immediately used the resource ball in his hand. Congratulations! You have obtained the following resources. Level 12 Law Crystals X208, 11th level Law Crystal X345, 10th level Law Crystal X764, Legendary Arms Token Fragments, Random, X3, 3rd Hall Account Book X1, Personnel Roster X1, Candle X10, Whip X1. When the light came on, a lot of strange things suddenly appeared in his personal space. But what worries Lin You most is the law crystals and token fragments, and he can even get these things. It's just that the amount was really small beyond his expectation. TSK, a poor guy. Cursing secretly, he immediately destroyed and threw away all the useless things. He finally found what he wanted in this pile of things. A roster that recorded the personnel information of the Pantheon, and an account book. Yes, this was his purpose from the beginning. People who are above the 12th level have a high status in the Pantheon, and there is a high chance that they will carry information about the Pantheon and the like. Although this is a bit risky, it is the fastest way to understand the internal structure of the Pantheon. Fortunately, he was lucky. He found what he was looking for as soon as he eliminated one person, and it was also the most important personnel list, so he didn't waste so much effort. This is why he specifically told Bai Shangting that he lived in seclusion here, because in this way, the Bai family can completely separate themselves. After all, a 12th level city lord wants to live in seclusion here, but he, a 10th level city lord, cannot control it even if he wants to. In addition, not many people have seen him, and even fewer people know him. He can safely go deep into the Pantheon and continue to inquire for information. After disposing of the corpses at the scene, Lin You immediately came to the foot of the world tree, stretched out his arm, and the core of the territory and soldiers were taken into the original universe. Then he turned over and jumped onto the back of the Qianlong. Let's go to the city of all gods. Amidst a strong gust of wind, Qianlong flew directly into the sky and flew towards the south. And at this time, Zhou Fang, who was discussing matters in the reception hall of the city lord's mansion, suddenly changed his expression. Chen too is dead. What? Deacon Chen is dead. Bai Shangting stood up in cooperation, with a look of shock on his face. Everyone below also stared at Zhou Feng with their eyes widened. To know, Chen too had the strength of a level 2 quasi-god, and he had only left for a few minutes, and yet he died like this. You dare to kill people from my pantheon, how brave you are. Zhou Feng shouted angrily and turned into an afterimage, and rushed out of the hall. In the blink of an eye, he mounted the undead bone dragon, and flew to the north of the city at extremely fast speed. South of Demon Town, the sky above an endless mountain forest, riding the Qianlong Lin You passed by at high speed, easily concealing his aura and evading Zhou Feng's perception. He had no intention of confronting Zhou Feng head-on, because even if he is royal arms, with the bonus of his level 2 quasi-god, the overall attributes are still weaker than the opponent's extraordinary arms. The highest basic attribute of the 12th level soldier is 5 million. The extraordinary arms with the level 9 quasi-god bonus will unlock 90% of their potential, which is a 45% increase in attributes, reaching 7.25 million, and his royal family's current basic attributes are 6 million. Even with the additional 10% attribute added by Lynx's natural aura, it is only 6.6 million. Even if the opponent can be temporarily suppressed when the savage roar explodes, there is not much certainty that it can be killed. Anyway, his goal has been achieved, and there is no need to take the risk to confront the opponent head-on. As for Bai Shangting and his daughter, he only agreed to reunite the other family, but he never said when, and he had no intention of getting involved in Pantheon's recruitment. Qianlong, do you think I'm too cold-blooded? Lin You couldn't help but ask Qianlong under him. No, Qianlong said angrily. I think the master is too kind. There is no need to care about the life and death of those ants. If anything happens to the master, we will die too. You are quite honest. Lin You couldn't laugh or cry. Master, forgive me. Our duty is to protect the safety of our master. Other things are not within our scope of consideration. Qianlong's words were very serious, as if he was telling something that was beyond doubt. They were transformed by Lin Yu's soul power, and endowed with independent wisdom, so Lin Yu was naturally the one who created them, and the one they wanted to protect to the death. No need to apologize. You are not wrong, Lin Yu said with a smile, his expression becoming more and more complicated. Along the way, I have had too much blood on my hands. Even I don't know if I will lose even the most basic humanity in the end. I don't know when, but killing someone has become such a normal thing for him, that he can't even make any waves. It was as if the last trace of humanity left in his heart was being slowly devoured by the world, turning him into a cold-blooded and ruthless humanoid monster. Everything is just for survival. Qianlong's voice came again. Yes, to survive. Lin Yu sighed, not knowing what he was thinking. As if feeling his emotions, Qianlong was silent for a moment and suddenly said, if the master is worried, then after everything is done, find a place to live a good life. Go, set a flag for me. This is not something you want to say. Hearing Qianlong's words, Lin Yu suddenly felt that his body was covered with flags, and he couldn't help but think of a sentence he had heard before. When this war is over, I will go back and get married. Then, nothing more. The person who said this sentence eventually died on the battlefield. Qianlong understood the meaning of his words through spiritual contact, and immediately shut his mouth, no longer daring to speak nonsense. However, it was precisely because of the company of royal family members like them that Lin You felt that this journey became less boring. Seeing that the demon-suppressing city had been left behind, he immediately returned to business, took out the personnel roster he had just obtained from his personal space, and opened it to check. The first page is the personnel structure diagram of the entire pantheon. From top to bottom, they are the hall master, elders, deacons, core members, senior members, and low-level members. In addition to the hall master, there are 7 elders below, each in charge of a branch hall, and their strength is all at the 13th level true god level, and their specific levels are not recorded. The number of deacons and core members, further down, is a bit too large, and it took several pages to finish, and their strength is all above the 12th level. As for the lower level members, there are not so many records, and they are not the ones Lin You should pay attention to. So soon, he skipped the pages of personnel records, and turned directly to the back. Unexpectedly, I suddenly saw rows of strange records on the last few pages. Danyu City captured 2 people from all realms, shot 1 to death, and extracted the soul. Guanghua City has captured a man from all realms. Yuhua City captured 3 people from all realms, extracted the souls of 2 people, and left 1 at large. For each successful arrest, a reward of 10,000 law crystals will be offered, and the whistleblower will be rewarded with 1,000 law crystals of the same level. The rest have been escorted to the City of All Gods, and are waiting to be punished. The entire record is eloquent, written with line after line of text. The more Lin You continued to look, the gloomier his face became, and in the end it became as cold as ice, with endless killing intent in his eyes. This record actually records the whereabouts of these great emperors of all realms, and there are several pages, recording about hundreds of records. All were captured by the Pantheon, and some were even killed directly to extract their souls. Of course Lin You knew why they did this. They just wanted to find the core of the world that he had merged with. He actually killed so many people from all over the world for one thing. Damn it, isn't it enough to push them in all the worlds? This moment, Lin You could no longer control the anger in his heart, and his hands began to tremble violently. Resisting the urge to tear the roster into pieces, he closed it. After taking a deep breath, he suppressed his anger and gradually calmed down. According to the information obtained from Bai Shangting, recently, the Pantheon has indeed been arresting people from all realms. It can be seen from this that not all emperors were captured by the Pantheon, or the space turbulence caused by the collapse of the Lord God's soul space disrupted their teleportation position, and the Pantheon had to send people to search everywhere. I didn't expect this last moment. It was this Lord God, whom they had never met, who opened up a way for them to survive. If you want us dead, then you can't blame me. Lin Yu's face was cold, and a terrifying aura surged wildly around him, causing the low-level monsters along the way to flee in all directions. When he was in the 10,000 realms, he had no choice but to merge with the core of the world in order to retain the essence of the 10,000 realms. As a result, after arriving in the god's domain, it still caused trouble. I don't know how many great emperors were killed. The other great emperors were fine, but he was not very familiar with them after all. However, several great emperors in the primitive world, especially Emperor Xinyao, were kind to him, and he absolutely could not sit idly by and ignore them. If they were among the arrested people, then he would have to find a way to rescue them. It seems that this trip to the City of All Gods, he had to go. Qianlong, speed up, receive. As if feeling Lin Yu's mood at this time, Qianlong didn't say any more nonsense, and immediately increased his speed to the maximum, flying all the way south. And at this time, tens of thousands of miles away in the front line of City of the Gods, the 5 elders in the Pantheon are leading hundreds of thousands of high-ranking lords to resist the attack of the monster army by the 4 major generals of the Demon King's army. Rush, kill all these monsters. Amidst the loud shouts of killing, the armies of both sides came and went, fighting like crazy. Everywhere he looked, there were almost all corpses of soldiers and monsters, and blood dyed the ground red. High in the sky, 5 13th level elders led flying troops all over the sky, fighting fiercely with the 4 13th level monster generals on the opposite side. The terrifying aura continued to explode, forcing other lords and monsters to be unable to get even closer. Vicious woman, you are so aggressive, aren't you afraid that our palace master will come over? Behind the team, the 3rd elder, who was directing the troops to fight, screamed in shock and anger, and his forehead was already covered with fine sweat. That is a sign that the power of the law is overdrawn. Damn reptiles, I can already feel your presence on your side. Hand over your majesty obediently, and I won't let you die. The monster known as the Venomous Woman is a giant black widow spider with a twisted human face. Every time the huge poison sac sprays venom, it will bring a large number of 13th level spider offspring, almost all over the field. It alone blocked the attacks of the third elder and another elder. The remaining 3 monster generals were equally powerful, with their physical bodies far surpassing those of the lords. They almost overwhelmed the other 3 elders. 5 versus 4. They are still at a disadvantage. I have never heard of anything about respecting one's superiors and not respecting one's superiors. I think you are just trying to find an excuse to attack us. The 6th elder next to the 3rd elder shouted loudly, and the angel soldiers around him burst out with dazzling holy light, forcing the surrounding monsters back. It is precisely because of his support from the rear that the Pantheon will not be able to break through the defense line at the same time. Several Pantheon elders were also confused. After so many years of fighting between the two sides, this was the first time that the Demon King's army was so crazy and launched a desperate attack. Even when the descendants of Demon King Barton were captured by the Palace Master, they were never so eager. Could it be that the Your Majesty they referred to is really within the jurisdiction of the Pantheon? But what kind of existence can make them so crazy? No, this matter must be reported to the Palace Master. Maybe this will be an opportunity for them to repel or even severely damage the Demon King's army. Thinking of this, the elders immediately looked at each other. Finally, they no longer held back, and launched their strongest methods one after another, and once again started a fierce battle with the 4 demon generals. Quick, quick, quick! The front line is in urgent need of supplies. Send these recovery potions quickly. There are also holy light magic props that have been newly made in the past few days. Please hurry up and send them over. Those monsters are afraid of this. Outside the city of the gods, groups of figures were coming and going, loading large amounts of supplies onto the backs of flying mounts and transporting them to the front line. Near the city gate, carriages were passing by, transporting many supplies. The entire city was bustling with excitement, attracting countless passers-by to watch from a distance. At this time, an emerald green dragon appeared in the distance and approached quickly. What is that? It seems to be a plant-based emerald green dragon. Emerald green dragon. Is the emerald green dragon that big? What a strong momentum. This has definitely reached level 12 or above. The passers-by who were watching were shocked, and all their eyes turned to the huge figure that suddenly appeared. Because that green dragon is so big, even the 12th level emerald green dragon is only half the size in front of it. What shocked them even more was the aura emanating from the figure on the green dragon's back. Even from a distance, they could feel a strong sense of oppression. Is this the city of all gods? On Qianlong's generous back, Lin You ignored the gazes of passers-by, but looked away, silently sizing up the huge city that appeared in front of him. The size of the city of all gods far exceeded Lin Yu's imagination. Not only does the city cover the entire land, as far as the eye can see, but hundreds of kilometers around it are dotted with large and small territories. The territories are connected to each other and extend in all directions, forming surrounding towns, like a large transportation network. There are many flying mounts and mechanical patrol machines flying in the sky over the city. In the deepest part of the city of all gods, a magnificent building stands in the clouds, with a large number of teams flying around it. Needless to say, everyone knows that that is the headquarters of the Pantheon. In order to deceive others, Lin You did not fly directly into the city, but landed outside the city gate, gathered his aura, blended into the crowd, and entered the city with them. I heard that the war between the Pantheon and the Demon King's army has been tense recently, and many people have died. Isn't that true? It seems that the Demon King's army has never attacked like this before. All 4 demon generals were sent out. Oh, I don't know how long the fight will last. I can't even go there to collect resources. It will probably take a long time, so we might as well find another place. For example, the soul-eating swamp in the west is good. There are many low-level insect and beast-type monsters. The discussions of other lords nearby continued to reach Lin Yu's ears, but he couldn't help but look at him. The war between the two sides is intense, and the Pantheon will definitely feel empty inside. All the masters will be sent out. Maybe this is a good opportunity for him to sneak into the Pantheon headquarters to rescue people. Certainly, before taking action, we need to find out more information. It saves you from encountering people above level 13 and getting you involved. After all, according to the roster, there are 8 13th level lords in the Pantheon, and anyone who appears can easily defeat him. Quick, Pantheon seems to have caught an incredible monster. Come over and have a look. At this moment, a shout suddenly sounded not far away, interrupting Lin Yu's thoughts. Pantheon caught a monster. He looked around in confusion and found that a large number of lords were rushing in the same direction on the street, making the street lively. Lin Yu would naturally not miss any news about the Pantheon. He just paused for a moment and followed the crowd to the other end of the street. Sure enough, he found a caged carriage, covered with black cloth slowly approaching. This is, suddenly, Lin Yu's eyes narrowed. Even though he was just standing behind the crowd, he could feel the terrifying aura emanating from behind the black cloth. Even with the naked eye, one can see a breath of blood spreading out, almost covering the entire huge cage, making people afraid to get even closer. I don't know if it was a coincidence or man-made, but suddenly a gust of wind blew by, lifting a corner of the black cloth. With just one glance, Lin You saw a pair of deep red eyes inside the cage, and an extremely huge body, like a dormant wild beast. Puff! Suddenly, several lower-ranking lords on the side met those eyes, and spurted out a mouthful of blood, causing a commotion. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Zihen appeared next to Lin You, blooming large dandelion seeds, which floated to the cage along the breeze and attached to it. The soul-chasing dandelion seeds have tracking and positioning effects. If you figure out where this monster is being held, you may be able to find the exact location of the great emperors of all realms. On the streets at this time, almost every lord was accompanied by 1 or 2 soldiers, so the appearance of the chasing soul did not attract much attention. After doing this, he turned around and left, rushing towards the city while looking at everything around him. Pantheon City is worthy of being the center of the entire Pantheon jurisdiction. The level of excitement is simply not comparable to that of a remote town like Zenmo City. Walking on the street, there are loud shouts and mounts of all kinds of strange types of soldiers everywhere. Even lords of level 10 or above can be seen from time to time. Probably for this reason, every street is built very wide and there is no feeling of crowding at all. Lin You thought for a moment, then summoned a legendary ancient tree to come out, sat on its shoulder and started walking. But despite this, it still attracted a lot of attention. Legendary ancient war tree. What a tall soldier. Is this at least 10th level? More than that, I have a skill that can detect information across 2 levels, but I still can't see the information on it. Damn it, isn't that the 12th level? That person is actually a quasi-god level lord. The crowd was in an uproar, all staring intently at the venerable ancient tree and Lin You on his shoulders. A 12th level quasi-god level powerhouse, even though he is the supreme being in the entire city of gods, is not something you can see casually. You know, that is the level that is already called God. If you go one step higher, you can create a world and become the master of it. No wonder they were so shocked, even excited. However, Lin You ignored them, and followed a piece of paper in his hand, walking through the streets and finally arriving at a rundown tavern in an alley in the outer city. This is the address Bai Shangting left for him. This is also where the forces behind that guy are stationed here to collect intelligence, to be able to reach into the city of the gods. The power behind Bai Shangting is really not simple. I am afraid it is not much weaker than the city of the gods. Coming, just as he was thinking about it, the door opened, and a little old man with a sinister look stuck his head out. They had already exchanged codes just now, so they didn't need to communicate too much. With a nod, Lin You walked through the ajar door and walked into the tavern. The next second, several sharp eyes fell on him, looking him up and down. After sensing the aura emanating from his body, their expressions changed and they all looked away. Lin You glanced at them. Some of these people were bartenders and waiters, and some were drinkers. Except for a few who were really drinking, the rest were just pretending. This way please. The little old man turned around and said something, then came to the front to lead the way. As soon as they entered the depths of the tavern, a loud laugh suddenly sounded. Ha ha, brother, I've come a long way and I'm sorry for the disappointment. I hope you'll forgive me. Following the sound, a well-dressed middle-aged man appeared and greeted him with a smile. Who are you? Lin You stopped and looked at the person in surprise. The other party's strength was actually the same as his, both at level 12 and reaching level 6 quasi-god level. A person of this level is hiding in a small tavern. What is the power behind Bai Shangting? Let me introduce myself first. I am Shin Saikong, the overseas deacon of the God-Destroying Alliance. I am responsible for stationing in the city of 10,000 gods. You should be the brother Lin You that Bai Shangting mentioned, right? Destroy the Gods Alliance. What a straightforward name. Such a name can be stationed within the Pantheon sphere of influence. It is no longer as simple as being huge. It is simply riding on the head of the Pantheon. It made him even more curious about this force. Yes, it's me. Bai Shangting has told you the specific situation, right? When Bai Shangting conveyed the news, he did not reveal the secret that he came from all realms. He only said that he was a person who had a grudge against the Pantheon and wanted to take revenge through their hands. As the saying goes, the enemy of your enemy is your ally. After learning that Lin You actually had the strength of the 12th level, the God Destroyer Alliance was naturally very happy and immediately agreed to his request. So there is this picture in front of me. Since your goal is consistent with ours, I will shamelessly call you Brother Lin. If you don't mind, you can call me brother. Shin Saikong did not show off as a talkative person, and used words to draw the relationship between himself and Lin You closer as soon as he came up. Then brother Lao Shin will lead the way. Lin You nodded silently and said nothing more. Then he walked through the dim passage, under the leadership of Shin Saikong. Along with a burst of noisy sounds, they went directly to a large restaurant, on the bustling street on the other side. This is the station of our God-destroying alliance in the city of the gods, and it is also the place where we openly negotiate with the Pantheon, so, there is no need to worry that people from the Pantheon will break in and search. Shin Saikong's voice sounded at the right time. Lin Yu looked around in surprise. The forces in the world were more complicated than he imagined. It seems that if he wants to occupy one place and establish his own territorial power, it will not be easy unless he is strong enough. Come with me. I will tell you about your future identity, and some news about the Pantheon. Shin Saikong gave him a look and headed directly towards the work area. When Lin Yu heard this, his eyes moved and he immediately followed. Wait until you reach a reception room at the far end, close the door and sit down. Shin Saikong said straight to the point. You should have heard that the Pantheon is currently resisting the attack of the Demon King's army on the front line, and it is when the rear is empty. So you are planning to sneak in? Lin Yu's eyes moved. Yes, Shin Saikong nodded. Basically every force knows about the Pantheon's recent arrests of lords from the lower realms. We are going to sneak into the place where they imprison those lords to find out what they are looking for. As far as I know, many forces are now ready to take action. Shin Saikong had already learned about Lin Yu's killing of the Pantheon deacon from Bai Shangting, so he still trusted Lin Yu, and did not hide too much. Of course, he didn't reveal the detailed plan, but he left a hint in the end. Unexpectedly, Lin Yu's eyes lit up after hearing his words. Unexpectedly, the targets of other forces turned out to be the captured emperors of the world, and they did not know the real purpose of the Pantheon in arresting them. This is definitely his chance. Suppressing the throbbing in my heart, I quickly asked, when do you plan to take action? The day after tomorrow. Shin Saikong looked serious. The day after tomorrow happens to be the day of the annual festival of the gods, and it happens to be the start of the war. The two elders who were left behind should all be present. Then it will be the best time for us to sneak in. What about the master of the Pantheon? Don't worry, the palace master is probably still confronting Demon King Barton somewhere now, and won't be back for a short time. I wonder if Brother Lin wants to participate in this operation. If you join, the success rate will definitely be greatly improved. Go. Of course I want to go. Lin Yu took a deep breath, and his eyes became extremely deep. Didn't he come all the way here just for this moment? It was already evening when Lin Yu left the reception room. Under Shin Saikong's arrangement, he directly moved into the upper room, behind the restaurant, as a distinguished guest of the God-destroying alliance. According to what Shin Saikong said, the Pantheon Festival will be held the day after tomorrow, and representatives from all major forces will be sent to congratulate them. As the sworn enemies of the Pantheon for many years, their God-destroying alliance naturally had to send people to the scene. That was also their chance to enter the Pantheon in a legitimate way. The two elders responsible for guarding the Pantheon are the Great Elder and the Seventh Elder, who are ranked first and last, especially the Great Elder, who has reached the level of True God level 7 or above. Although it is not known what level his highest potential weapon is, there are rumors that his strength is not much weaker than that of the Palace Master, and he is the well-deserved second in command of the Pantheon, so you have to be careful when you act. As for the Seventh Elder ranked at the bottom, he is a true god with level 1 strength and an extraordinary weapon level, so he is also someone to pay attention to. It seems that we have to upgrade our level as soon as possible. Lin Yu lay on the bed and thought seriously. The top leaders of all major forces basically possess true god level strength, which is the 13th level. At his current level, even if he has royal arms, he still can't compete with them, unless he can use the method Chongfeng Great Emperor once used to turn back time. I don't know at which level the ability to turn back time can be mastered. According to the previous time in Wanji, Motion's strength has obviously reached the 13th level, but even so, he would not turn back time. Not to mention turning back time, even the most basic laws of time have not been used. It is obviously not an ability that can be obtained at this level. That is to say, Emperor Chongfeng's strength is probably above the 13th level. Even with such terrifying strength, he has to hide in the world to avoid pursuit. So how strong should the person who pursues him be? There was also the person whom Emperor Chongfeng asked him to help kill in the end. Could it be a god? Or maybe even the main god? This is too flattering on me. The more he thought about it, the more outrageous Lin Yu felt. Then he calmly took a look at the original universe in his body, and the core of the world on the edge of the universe. After killing monsters and absorbing a large amount of soul power during this period, the originally dilapidated core of the world has been repaired a lot. Go on at this rate. It is estimated that, when he upgrades to the 13th level, the core of this world will be fully formed, and I don't know what changes will occur by then. Let's go shopping around tomorrow to see if there are any props that can directly increase the power of the soul. Thinking about it, Lin You closed his eyes and gradually fell asleep. A night of silence. Early the next morning, Lin You got up not long after dawn. After getting dressed, he left the room directly and went to the restaurant lobby outside. At this time, the sun was just rising. There were already many guests coming to drink morning tea in the restaurant. They gathered together in twos and threes and talked loudly, and bursts of laughter could be heard from time to time. When Lin Yu went downstairs, he didn't attract much attention. He just glanced around the hall and walked straight outside. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Suddenly, an arrogant and domineering voice sounded. As soon as Lin Yu walked out of the restaurant door, a team came towards him. The leader, a young man in his 20s, had an arrogant expression. He pushed aside passers-by with the help of his entourage, and rushed into the restaurant with extremely arrogant arrogance. Beside the young man, there were several young men and women, all of whom were impressive. The passers-by who were squeezed away were about to yell, but after seeing the young man, they shut their mouths and stepped aside in a secretive manner. Others nearby cast even more fearful glances. It's Wang Han from the God-Destroying Alliance. Wang Han, who is known as the #1 among the younger generation of the God-Destroying Alliance, and the few around here seem to be some of the best geniuses in the God-Destroying Alliance. Why did they appear in the City of All Gods? I heard that he came here to participate in the military competition at the Pantheon celebration. Is that the competition where the troops compete in team battles at the festival? The #1 member of the younger generation in the God-Destroying Alliance. Listening to the comments coming from the side, Lin Yu moved his eyes, and immediately sensed the strength of the young man. The 11th level was close to the 12th level. Since he is of the younger generation, he should not be more than 30 years old. To be able to reach this level of strength at this age is indeed an amazing talent. It is estimated that it will not be long before he can reach the 12th level and become a deacon of the God Destroyer Alliance. In Wanji, reaching the 10th level at this age is already considered very powerful. Just as Lin Yu was looking around in confusion, Wang Han and his party had already arrived in front of him. Lin Yu originally didn't want to pay attention to them and left directly. Unexpectedly, the dogleg next to Wang Han suddenly said, "You, get out of the way. Didn't you see Mr. Wang passing by?" Lin Yu paused when he heard this, and looked at the people walking towards him calmly. Sure enough, the proud men trained by big forces tend to develop arrogant and domineering personalities. Even the God-Destroying Alliance is no exception. Just like poor people never know how rich people live. Although magical, it is real. What, didn't you hear? Get out of here. Seeing that Lin Yu was motionless, the bitch was even more angry and wanted to push Lin Yu away as he walked up. The talented men and women at the back all looked like they were watching a show, and they immediately attracted the attention of everyone around them. In the gods' domain, low-level lords cannot detect the information of high-level lords. Of course, there are various ways to hide the aura, which can block other people's detection. Obviously they think Lin Yu is the latter. After all, Lin Yu looked about the same age as them, so he didn't stop his ruthless behavior. However, the next second, their smiles suddenly froze on their faces, because the dog-legger, who stepped forward, actually knelt down on the ground with a pop, causing the rock floor outside the gate to crack. Immediately afterwards, an extremely terrifying pressure appeared and enveloped them instantly. Bang, bang, bang. A series of muffled sounds came. Everyone was shocked to find that all the geniuses, including Wang Han, were suppressed by an invisible force and knelt on the ground unable to move. So strong. The lords looked at Lin Yu in shock and found that a flower spirit holding a staff and wearing a crown appeared beside him. He exuded a supreme majesty that looked down on all living beings. With just one glance, they actually had the urge to worship him. What kind of military unit is this? Wang Han and others, who were forced to kneel on the ground, were also shocked at this time. Their faces turned red and they resisted the pressure. Some of the weaker ones even fainted. If this continues, I'm afraid they will all have to answer here. Brother Lin, please show mercy. At this moment, a shout came from the restaurant. Shin Saikong, dressed in a brocade robe, walked down the stairs and hurried out the door. It's Deacon Shen from the God Destroyer Alliance. Did I hear you correctly? Deacon Shen just called him brother. For Deacon Shen to be called that, does it mean that his strength has reached the 12th level? The crowd kept exclaiming, and everyone looked at Lin Yu in shock. Wang Han and others, who were originally overjoyed to see Shin Saikong appear, turned pale and looked at Lin Yu in disbelief. How could they think of it? Lin Yu, who is about the same age as them, actually has the strength of the 12th level. Don't worry, I'm just helping you to discipline them and let them realize how dangerous people's hearts are. Lin Yu turned around and smiled at Shin Saikong. Then Wang Han and others felt light all over, and the pressure on their bodies finally disappeared. They hurriedly got up from the ground, no longer daring to have any contempt for Lin You. Even Shin Saikong, who had just arrived, was secretly frightened, because the aura exuding from Lin You just now was not much weaker than him. You must know that he is 4 levels higher than Lin You. Then there is only one possibility. Lin You has soldiers above the extraordinary level. That is a type of soldier that can only be obtained by the 13th level. Even in the God-destroying alliance, it is only available to elder-level figures. In an instant, Lin Yu's status in his heart rose to a whole new level, making him pay more attention to him. He immediately came to Wang Han and others and scolded, "You useless thing. This is an honored guest of our God-destroying alliance. Go back and reflect." Yes. Wang Han and others did not dare to refute. They glanced at Lin Yu with lingering fear and entered the restaurant dejectedly. After he disappeared, Shin Saikong looked at Lin Yu with an embarrassed look. The people below are incapable of discipline, which makes Brother Lin laugh. They are all very good seedlings. If you train them well and change their temperament, there is still a lot of room for improvement. Young people will always be unruly, and Lin, you can understand that. Although he is also a young man, compared with the people in God's domain, he has once been the lord of a city, or even the lord of a country, and his character is no longer the same. This also made him miss the past days. If there is a chance in the future, he hopes to find a place that is uncontested, and establish a territory, slowly increase his strength, and no longer participate in the troubles of this world. Correct. Just as he was thinking about it, Shin Saikong suddenly changed the topic. "Where are you going, Brother Lin?" "Nothing. I just plan to walk around and see if I can earn some law crystals." Lin Yu's current number of soldiers is only about 25,000, and the number of extraordinary soldiers is only more than 2,000. Considering that there may be a battle next, he must recruit all 50,000 soldiers as soon as possible and replace them all with extraordinary ones. Based on the recruitment of each unit, plus 2 law crystals for mutation, almost 100,000 law crystals are needed. This is a big sum for him. If Brother Lin Yu wants to earn law crystals, I know a place that is suitable for you. Shin Saikong thought for a moment and said, "Oh, where?" Lin Yu became interested. Then, Shin Saikong came over and whispered a few words next to him. Lin Yu's originally curious eyes gradually brightened. The outer city of the gods. On one of the busiest streets. After nearly half an hour of rushing, Lin Yu finally arrived here. A giant building with Army Race Course written on it. This is where Shin Saikong introduced him to where he could make money quickly. The reason why it is called a race course is not because it is used for horse racing, but refers to any form of competition between the relevant arms. It should be right here. Lin Yu turned around and looked around. They were all lords coming in and out of the race course. The excitement was comparable to that of a market. Faintly, bursts of shouts could be heard coming from the building. Following the crowd, I walked in and reached the interior, where a noisy atmosphere immediately hit my face. "Go ahead, tear its head off. Kill it for me. Good opportunity. Take his flank. The opponent's output can't keep up. Cut him to heel." Fierce shouts kept echoing in my ears. What surprised Lin Yu was that there was something else inside the race course. It was hollow and open air, and it was exaggeratedly big, almost as big as a football field. A large group of people stood in the audience, blushing and cheering loudly at the stadium. Inside the stadium, there were 2 huge military teams, fighting fiercely and falling into a melee. What surprised Lin Yu the most was not this, but the composition of the troops on both sides. There were so many different races, and the team was even more chaotic. It didn't look like there was a lord commanding and controlling them. After asking the staff in charge of registration, I found out that these troops were originally put together by the lords in the audience. That's right. The rules of the game in this venue are collective melee. Each lord sends out a unit and randomly forms 2 teams of the same number. Then they engage in a melee on the field, and place bets with law crystals. The winning lord can directly obtain all the crystals bet by the losing lord, and distribute them according to the betting ratio. Interesting. Lin Yu's eyes were surprised. This was the first time he heard of such a weird rule. Each lord creates a temporary team of soldiers and assigns them randomly, which greatly increases the randomness of the game. No one knows whether the team they bet on will win, and it also eliminates many possibilities of cheating. It depends entirely on strength and luck. In that case, then register me for a level 12 event. Lin Yu said to the staff. "Okay, I'll register it for you." The staff skillfully recorded the information for Lin Yu, and then handed him a sign. "This is your number plate. The next level 12 competition will be held in 15 minutes. You can bet crystal stones on yourself. The race course has confidentiality measures. Others cannot detect any information about your troops. If your troops are defeated, they will be teleported away directly without dying. I wish you a good time." Good. There was no way to detect his military branch information, which saved him a lot of worries. He didn't have to worry about being discovered by people from the Pantheon, and in order to avoid shady situations, the Lord could only bet on himself. If you want to win, then rely on your own strength to win and contribute to the team you are assigned to. Lin You responded, took the number plate, and glanced at it. A betting interface and troop selection appeared directly in front of him. This seems to be the architectural function of a high-level territory, and it looks very complete. Lin You thought for a moment and bet all the 212th level crystals. He had no way. He only has so much now, and he got it from the Pantheon Deacon when he was in Demon City. Although it's not much, if you win the game, according to the random ratio, it should be doubled. When the time comes, if we slowly accumulate interest, won't we have money? Certainly. The premise is that his team can win, so it must be treated with caution. According to his understanding of the god's domain, the highest potential arms of 12th level lords are basically legendary, and even level 10 quasi-gods only have 7.25 million attributes. His royal arms will not be much weaker, so after thinking about it, I chose King Gong to play first, because Qin Gang's exclusive talent, Domination of the Battlefield, increases the defense of all melee combat by 20. Counting his level 2 quasi-gods bonus, the result is 40%. A physique of 7 million won't make the opponent much weaker. Besides, a level 10 quasi-god, it's not something you can see casually. After selecting the bets and units, he went directly to the auditorium without stopping, and continued to watch the battle in the arena. At this time, the battle between the two teams' arms has reached a fever pitch, and only a few arms are left fighting fiercely back and forth on the field. In the end, amid the loud cheers of the audience, one troop was defeated and the game was over. Suddenly, the audience burst into cheers and curses, pushing the atmosphere on the field to a climax again. Dear guests, please note that the next battle will begin in 10 minutes. This competition is a 12th level competition. Guests who want to participate, please hurry up and register. The crisp prompt echoed throughout the entire arena. There was even more exclamation in the originally lively auditorium. Reaching the 12th level so soon. Great. I just want to see how the 12th level troops fight. Let's go and take a seat first. Because of the festival held by the Pantheon, many high-ranking lords from various forces have come to the city of Pantheon recently. The 12th level lords, who were rarely seen in normal times, also poured in large numbers, making it much easier to organize the 12th level events. When the other lords heard that the next show was the 12th level, they also rushed into the venue like crazy and got a good seat in the audience early. Some even found those 12th level lords participating in the competition, and spent a small amount of money to bet on them, intending to make a fortune. This is also a way for them to place bets without participating in the competition. In short, the atmosphere on the entire field was directly lifted to the sky, and the cheers soared into the sky, almost pushing away the clouds in the sky. Finally, after 10 minutes passed, rays of light lit up, and 12th level troops appeared on the field one after another, and were randomly assigned to both ends of the field. The number is exaggerated, adding up to 2,000. In other words, there are 2,000 12th level lords participating in this competition. It was indeed a festival of the Pantheon, and it actually attracted so many high-ranking lords, even quasi-gods that were rarely seen in ordinary times. So many 12th level troops. Look at those angels at the back, they are so powerful. I'm afraid he has reached level 7 or above of quasi-god, right? And those skeleton kings on the other side. How come their bodies are golden? There were constant exclamations in the audience, and everyone was excitedly looking at this rare 12th level soldier. The two teams, each with 1,000 soldiers, were scattered on both sides of the field, looking at each other with fighting intent. They are here to fight for their respective masters, and they must not lose their master's name. This is the consensus of all arms. As a 12th level unit, and they are all heroic units, their intelligence has reached a very high level, and they naturally do not want to lose this battle. Master, let me go up next time. In Lin Yu's origin space, Wuang's eager voice came. No, I should be asked to go up. I can knock them all down by myself. Qianlong's voice sounded immediately. The other royal families gave up after hearing this, and also spoke out one after another, wanting to be the next to fight. The origin space was filled with excitement at the same time. On top of the highest stand, several powerful 12th level lords gathered together, looking down upon everything below. We're lucky. All our troops are grouped together. A middle-aged man said playfully. How's it going? Are you sure you can win? I made a big bet this time. Another person whispered. Don't worry, with our combined skills, we can definitely overwhelm the opponent. Indeed, since we are grouped together, this battle is definitely won. The words of several people were full of confidence, as if this victory was easy to come by. And just as they were talking, a prompt finally sounded in the venue. The battle is ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 begins. Roar. As soon as the order was given, the beast soldiers in the field roared, and the beasts charged and rushed to the front. Then came the humanoid cavalry units, all charging towards the opposite unit. The long-range attack and auxiliary units in the rear lit up with colorful lights, turning into streams of light pouring out from the sky, and blasted across the center of the field. The majestic scene immediately shocked the lords on the stage to widen their eyes and stare closely at the battle situation in the field. In the blink of an eye, all the troops were fighting fiercely together, all over the sky and on the ground, and they were evenly matched in the middle of the field. The battle has just begun. On the high platform, the two people who had just spoken looked at each other and smiled slightly, as if in response to their words. At this time, in the team on the left, 2 mechanical war mecha units were suddenly dismantled into countless parts, and then reassembled into a huge mechanical tower, dozens of meters high. What's going on? How come those 2 arms can be combined? Is this a mechanical reorganization of the mechanical department? Didn't you say that ability can only reorganize your own troops? The lords in the audience looked at the changes in the stadium in shock, and they were all shocked by this sudden change. What shocked them even more was that after the mechanical tower appeared, a terrifying electromagnetic pulse suddenly erupted and surged out to the entire outside of the field. All enemy units that were hit had their skills directly interrupted and fell into paralysis. Then every 5 seconds, the pulse will be cast again, interrupting their skills again and again. What a great opportunity. Get rid of them now. The lords who belonged to the 2 mechanical teams in the stands were overjoyed. No need to say anything. Their troops seized the opportunity, activated their burst skills and rushed towards the opposite side, intending to severely damage them and eliminate them. In the blink of an eye, the situation on the court has undergone earth-shaking changes, almost becoming one-sided. The people on the high platform also raised the corners of their mouths, showing expressions of victory. But at this moment, something unexpected happened. Among the suppressed team, a huge ancient tree lord rushed out of the team. As soon as he raised his arm, a transparent barrier suddenly appeared in front of all the melee troops, forming a solid barrier in the entire front row. Bang, bang, bang. Violent collisions sounded one after another. Those units that charged forward with burst skills were directly knocked back by the protective wall, instantly dismantling their strongest offensive. This is the plant-based war barrier skill. Isn't this skill a single target skill? How can it have such a powerful effect? The real barrier skill of the ancient tree venerable is single target. This is something that almost all lords who have come into contact with the plant system know. After all, the first thing they usually encounter when fighting plants is the ancient tree type, which is the best in melee combat. So when he saw that King Gang's war barrier could cover all close combat, the lord on the stage was extremely shocked, and even exclaimed. Even the lords on the same team as Qin Gang were extremely surprised. But after all, they were not those low-level lords, so they did not act too violently. With a slight thought in their minds, their troops finally seized this opportunity to breathe and suddenly burst out, surrounding the enemy troops that had been pushed back by the war barrier, and violently attacked them. For a time, roars and explosions continued. With the assistance of the angel troops at the rear, the strongest combat power broke out one after another. In just a few seconds, dozens of close combatants were eliminated and forced to teleport away. Just at this time, the integration time of the pulse electric tower ended and it was disassembled into its original form again, losing the last layer of suppression ability, which suddenly put the opposite defense line into a precarious situation. It seems we can't do it without some means. Next to the 2 mechanical lords, a man with a cold face narrowed his eyes, and a thought was conveyed to the field. The next second, with a bang, the body of a dark demon exploded directly on the field, turning into a turbulent black energy that enveloped the entire field. The enemy's troops, which had been aggressively attacking, suddenly dwindled, and were gradually suppressed by their troops. What's going on? Why did our unit's attack suddenly become weaker? It seems to be the Dark Devil's magic detonation skill. After death, it will self-destruct and reduce all enemy attributes by 10%. Detonation of demonic chi. Isn't this a skill that the Dark Demon can only master after he reaches the extraordinary level? What did you say? Extraordinary arms. At this moment, the faces of the lords on the opposite side changed drastically. Extraordinary level arms are absolutely out of reach for their level. They never expected that there was someone on the opposite side who had a unit of this level. Could it be that they were the key training targets of some big force? Although a 10% reduction in all attributes may not sound like much, it is absolutely fatal in such a close battle, because the enhanced burst skills between various departments can basically only be effective on the same series of arms. Even if they have burst skills to offset the weakening, they can only cover part of the same series of arms as expected. Under the opponent's sudden attribute suppression, Except for some units that still had explosive skills, other units retreated one after another, and several were directly eliminated and teleported away. The situation changes so quickly. Haha, we will accept your law crystal. As if he had already seen the victory of his own team, the proud laughter of the opposite lord was heard not far away. After winning this game, they can obtain all the law crystals of the opposing team. Especially those who placed the most bets were even more delighted, because according to the betting ratio, they are the ones who make the most profit in the end. You must know that it is the 12th level law crystal that even they are in urgent need of. This rage course can really make money quickly. Look, what is that? Suddenly, they were interrupted by a shout from the crowd. Just when everyone thought that the team on the right was about to be defeated, a large red light suddenly appeared on the ancient tree, covering all friendly troops. The team that had been retreating suddenly gained momentum, and stopped its decline in one fell swoop, blocking all the troops on the opposite side. Group burst skill. The lord opposite's eyes changed, and the smile instantly solidified on his face. It can actually be effective on all types of troops. What kind of skill is this? Something's wrong. This is not an ordinary explosive skill. Their momentum has increased so much. It's that ancient tree soldier again. Hurry up and focus on him. There were constant shouts on the stage, and they all aimed at Qin Gang, who was rushing at the front, and launched a fierce siege on him. But what shocked them even more, the attacks of all their units fell on King Gong, but they did not kill him instantly, but were blocked by his hardening skills. The lords who were on Lin Yu's team were immediately excited when they saw this. What a great opportunity! Heal that ancient tree quickly and continue the attack. The sudden appearance of Savage Roar boosted the morale of their troops, and once again suppressed the opposing troops. But this time, the opponent failed to come up with more effective countermeasures, and was quickly defeated due to the huge attribute gap. They were all killed in a short time, leaving the entire field empty in an instant. 1. The corner of Lin Yu's mouth in the audience rose. The suppression power of the royal troops on the legendary troops was indeed huge. Even if there were extraordinary troops on the opposite side, it was not enough. And luckily, he didn't encounter any difficult opponents this time, allowing him to easily win the first game. Congratulations, you won this game, and the profits are being calculated. After calculation, 5% commission is deducted, and a total of 610 law crystals have been obtained. They have been distributed to the personal space. Please check it yourself. 610 yuan. It tripled directly. Upon hearing the prompt, Lin Yu's eyes lit up instantly. These law crystals include 208 pieces of his principal, which means he received a total of 402 pieces. This is simply a huge profit. As expected, the opponent was rich, but someone actually suppressed so many law crystals to win, but in the end, he got an advantage in vain. No wonder Shin Saikong said the risks here are high, but the money comes quickly. If you continue to play according to this trend, it is not a dream to earn more than 10,000 yuan, and you can even save enough to pay for mutant extraordinary troops in a short period of time. Of course, you have to ensure that you can always win, and this is precisely Lin Yu's advantage. His royal arms are absolutely crushing among the 12th level. Regardless of their attributes or skills, their strength is higher than that of other lords' troops, and they are basically good players in group battles. That is to say, this is his opportunity to make money quickly. Not willing to waste time, while the other lords were cheering and annoyed, he immediately left the audience and came to the stage, continued to press all the law crystals on himself, and registered for the next game. This is your number plate, please keep it. The staff once again skillfully registered him, and said politely, 12 level games generally take a long time to prepare and will not start until there are more than 2,000 people. You can go and watch other games first. Lin Yu took the number plate, turned around and left. He wasn't worried about the lack of people. Because of the Pantheon Festival, a large number of Tier 12 players poured into the Pantheon City, making high-level competitions that were usually difficult to organize much easier. He must seize this rare opportunity to get more law crystals. Otherwise, we won't have such a good opportunity after today. Think about it. He quickened his pace and returned to the auditorium again to watch other games. As expected, it had only been less than an hour when a warning suddenly sounded in the venue. Dear guests, please note that the next battle will begin in 15 minutes. This competition is a 12th level competition. Guests who want to participate, please hurry up and register. Come on, come on. The 12th level competition has begun again. Are there enough people so soon? There are so many 12th level bosses. Haha. I must enjoy watching it today. The audience on the stage was excited, and the atmosphere in the venue was immediately pushed to a climax. Waves of cheers spread through the building to the streets outside, attracting a large number of outsiders to join in this novel competition, making the entire auditorium full and overcrowded. The scorching sound waves shook the entire sky, shaking violently, Like an unprecedented event soon, the second level 12 match came as scheduled. This time Lin You sent Wang. With superb assassination skills and phantom walker skills, he constantly wandered between the opponent's teams, killing a large number of the opponent's troops without showing signs of danger, and finally won the game, showing the assassin's low-key style. As for Lin You, who had suppressed all his net worth, the law crystal doubled again, reaching around 1,500, which made him smile from ear to ear. Game 3, he sent out artillery at the most critical moment of the game, that shot pierced through the stars, directly defeating the opponent's proud defense, and causing a huge exclamation on the stage. Lin Yu's law crystals also skyrocketed again, rising to more than 3,000. However, he learned well and did not put all the crystals on, but kept 1,000 yuan as the principal as expected. When I sent Chasing Soul up in the 4th game, I happened to encounter a level 8 quasi-god level extraordinary soldier, the Flame Lord. The terrifying range of fire skills can burn out the soul-chasing dandelion seeds in one go. Even if the dream tree comes with a shield that can withstand 1 damage, it will be useless. Fortunately, they also have several units with level 7 quasi-god strength. With the cooperation of 2, they finally won the victory with difficulty. In the end, there were only a few defeated soldiers left on the field. The 5th, 6th, and 7th games that followed were much easier. There were basically no major surprises, and they all won without any danger. And in order to deceive others, Lin You only sent a few royal family members, who were smaller and less noticeable. As for the more iconic royal families such as King Teng, Forest Sage, Qianlong, and Xing Kui, they were not sent on stage to avoid being recognized by others. Okay, let's get here today. Lin You looked at the darkening sky, and said to the royal family. At this time, his face was full of excitement. Shen Xin took a look at the number of the 12th level law crystal on the resource interface, 49,011. In just one day, I earned nearly 50,000 law crystals. Even now, Lin You still can't believe his eyes. If this were told, not many people would dare to believe it. For a 12th level lord, this is undoubtedly a huge sum of money. In order to avoid being spotted, Lin You did not stay long, and left the race course among the exiting crowd. Then he rode the emerald green dragon, and flew high into the sky, rushing back towards the God Destroyer Alliance's station. After confirming that no one was following him, he took out a law crystal, and put it into the original space. According to the information provided to him by Shin Saikong, the law crystal is condensed from the power of the soul, and the Lord can directly absorb it to strengthen the original space. It also gave him hope of rising to level 3 quasi-god. When the law crystal enters the body, it is directly transformed into a stream of pure energy, and integrated into the original space. The law crystal is successfully absorbed, and the original space is strengthened. When the prompt sounded, Lin You calmed down and felt it. A piece of 12th level law crystal did not improve him much. It was equivalent to killing an ordinary 12th level monster, but he didn't feel disappointed. After all, this was still a way to improve. Over time, it can still speed up a lot. After thinking about it, he speeded up and rushed back to the restaurant. As soon as he entered the room, he immediately came to the bedside and continued to absorb the law crystals. After absorbing nearly 30,000 law crystals, a reminder finally sounded in his mind. Congratulations, your level has been improved. Your current level is level 3 quasi-god. Various attributes have changed. Please check them yourself. Finally upgraded. Lin You let out a breath of turbid breath, and felt a huge energy surge into his body, nourishing his limbs and bones. I clicked on the personal interface and took a look, and the attributes also changed. Name, Lin You. Lord, race, human. Level 12, level 3 quasi-god. Power, 6.5 million. Physique, 6.5 million. Agility, 6.11 million. Spirit, 6.11 million. Basic skills, multiple mutations, law of time, soul bond, Qin Gang, twin origin. Not enough level, not unlocked. Power of origin, unlock 30% of the potential of all arms. Introduction. The Lord attribute interface records the specific strength and various skills of the Lord, and is unlocked after becoming a Lord. Good. The distance between him and the level 10 quasi-god has become one step closer. In the savage roaring state, it is not even weak at all, and there is no problem in returning the whole body. With such strength, he will be more confident in his actions tomorrow. Secretly clenching his fists, he stood up and left the restaurant, riding Qianlong to fly out of the city. I randomly found a deserted place to gather the core of the territory, and began to use the remaining 20,000 law crystals to mutate extraordinary soldiers. It wasn't until late at night that he finally spent all the crystals. The number of extraordinary soldiers has also increased from the original 2,000 to 10,000. and their strength has been greatly improved. The remaining several hundred law crystals were kept by him, in case of emergency. After doing this, he put away the core of his territory, and flew back towards the city of the gods again, disappearing into the dark night in a short while. The night passed quickly, in a blink of an eye. It was the next morning, when the first ray of sunshine in the morning illuminated the earth. The entire city of the gods began to become lively. The residents of the city, as well as representatives of the major forces, set out early in the morning to rush to the building that symbolized the center of the pantheon. "Are you all ready?" Inside the restaurant, Shin Saikong asked a group of young men and women in front of him. "Ready?" There was a loud response from below. In addition to exploring the secrets of the pantheon, their trip was also to win the first place in this exchange and competition among the younger generation, and suppress the arrogance of the pantheon. Seeing their majestic appearance, Shin Saikong nodded with satisfaction. "Very good. Let's go." With an order, the team that had been prepared outside the restaurant immediately started moving. Lin You followed Shin Saikong on his flying mount, constantly observing the representatives of the forces coming from all directions. Only then did Shin Saikong look back at him. "I will take them to the festival later to attend the conference, and monitor the movements of the two elders. At that time, I will arrange a team of people with strong concealment skills to sneak into the back of the pantheon. Brother Lin, you can act according to the circumstances. If you find any useful information, it would be better to share it with us." In name, Lin You could only be considered an ally on the same side as them, and he was not confident enough to give orders to them. "Good." Lin Yu responded without saying much. Of course Shin Saikong would not have thought that he had actually known the Pantheon's purpose of arresting the lower realm lord for a long time. The reason why he cooperated with the God-destroying alliance was just to cover up others' eyes. His ultimate goal is to rescue the imprisoned emperor of all realms, and then escape from the land controlled by Pantheon. What concerned him most now was the safety of Emperor Xinyao and the others. The Pantheon kept the capture of the Nether Lord secret so tightly that there was no way to find out the specific information from the outside, that's all. Under the leadership of Shin Saikong, the team of the God Destroyer Alliance swept over the city in a mighty manner, and soon arrived at the center of the city, the magnificent building where the Pantheon was located. From a distance, many teams could be seen holding flags high and gathering in a huge square. The younger generation from various factions gathered together and talked excitedly, looking like a lively scene. On the high platform in the center, two terrifying figures stood there, overlooking the various teams below. Just one glance, Lin You felt an aura from those two people that made his heart palpitate. Shin Saikong didn't even need to say anything. He could guess the identities of the two people at once. They are the Grand Elder and the 7th Elder of the Pantheon, 13th level true god level figures. However, Lin Yu was not too surprised. After all, he had already experienced the skills of the 13th level in Wanji, and even killed Mo Tian with his own hands. Although that power does not belong to him, he has killed gods anyway, so his state of mind is naturally different from others. "Very good, the two elders are here. You can find an opportunity to sneak in," Shin Saikong whispered, and then led the team to distance themselves from Lin Yu and the infiltration team of the God Destroyer Alliance, and slowly landed on the square. "Representative of the God Destroying Alliance, Shin Saikong, is here to congratulate us." The loud voice echoed throughout the square, immediately attracting the attention of all the forces, and they all looked surprised. The God Destroying Alliance. They actually sent representatives here. The Master of the Pantheon and the leader of the God Destroying Alliance are sworn enemies. If they come here with such a big fanfare, I'm afraid they are coming with bad intentions. That's for sure. I heard that this time they called some of the strongest young people over. Are you sure? Then there's something good to watch now. Representatives of various forces were talking a lot, looking like they were waiting for something good to happen. However, he didn't notice that several figures had already circled to the back and were quietly moving away from the square where the ceremony was held, heading deeper into the Pantheon. It was exactly as Shin Saikong said. Because the battle on the front line was urgent, the Pantheon's defense force was very weak. Most of the 12th level deacons had rushed over to provide support. There were only some 11th level teams patrolling back and forth along the way. With Lin Yu's strength, he could easily avoid them, as if he were in a deserted place. Even the top 11th level experts sent by the God Destroying Alliance were very good at concealment. They passed each patrol team and entered the depths in a short while. Arrive. Suddenly the person responsible for leading the way gestured for them to stop. At this time, they were far away from the perception range of the two Pantheon elders, and came to the back of the building complex, outside an entrance leading to the underground. This was also the specific location where the lords of the lower realm were imprisoned through the God-destroying alliance's methods during this period. After all, the two major forces are sworn enemies, so it is not surprising to have a few internal agents. You only need to use some tricks to get the information you want. Moreover, this underground entrance is heavily guarded. There is a patrol team almost every 10 meters. You can tell at a glance that what is inside is not simple. But what puzzled Lin You was, when he probed his senses into the entrance, it was swallowed up like a stone sinking into the ocean, and he could not detect anything inside at all. Is it perceptual shielding? Lin You frowned and smelled an unusual smell. This infiltration operation went so smoothly that he even felt it was a bit fake. Moreover, apart from them, there was no infiltration team from other forces. There must be something fishy about this matter. Master, that entrance seems to be an illusion. Just as he was thinking about it, Kong Ming's voice suddenly came from the original universe. Can you feel it? Lin Yu was surprised and asked through spiritual contact. Yes. My mental attributes are relatively high. I can vaguely see that this is a very high-level illusion trap. It should be arranged by the two 13th level traps. The mutation skill inherited by Kong Ming is the spiritual protection of the four-leaf clover, which increases the spiritual attributes by 40%, making him the most spiritual among all the royal family. Since she even said that, there must be something wrong here. Can you sense where the real entrance is? Lin Yu asked. It seems that in the courtyard over there, I can feel an unusual smell there. Kong Ming paused for a moment, then pointed out the direction to Lin Yu, through spiritual contact. Lin Yu cast his perception in this direction, and sure enough, he found an inconspicuous small courtyard and a group of buildings, and two 12th level lords stationed in front of the door. Has a problem. There is definitely something wrong with this place. He actually had two 12th level guards stationed there, and even built a magic circle to shield his senses. Anyone with a little bit of savvy would know that it was unusual. Lin Yu's eyes gradually narrowed, and he retreated quietly, approaching the small courtyard. As for the infiltration team of the God Destroyer Alliance, let them be the bait. They are just using each other anyway as expected. Not long after he left, a ray of light suddenly lit up at the underground entrance, accompanied by a chaotic sound of fighting and several screams. All surrounding patrol teams gathered in that direction. The two 12th level lords guarding the small courtyard remained motionless, as if they didn't hear anything at all, which made the courtyard even more special. Lin Yu hid in the corner, carefully checking the information of the two people. One was a level 5 quasi-god, and the other was a level 6 quasi-god. This is equivalent to a senior deacon level existence among the major forces. It is impossible to sneak in without being discovered by them, unless someone from the 13th level is sent over. But this is obviously unrealistic. As soon as the 13th level appears, he will probably be intercepted by the two elders and unable to even get close. This may be why the Pantheon is so confident, but Lin Yu is the exception, because when he mutated the extraordinary arms last night, he replaced his soul bond with Wuang and gained Wuang's attributes and all skills. With the bonus of level 3 quasi-god, Wuang has attributes comparable to those of level 6 quasi-god. These two levels 12 alone cannot stop him. With a slight smile, Lin Yu's body gradually disappeared, and he directly activated the Shad Alice Void skill, and entered the stealth state. Then they quietly passed the door and entered the small courtyard. However, the next second, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. There was no great emperor of all realms in the courtyard, but another figure that he had not expected. I would like to recommend a book written by a book friend, Cultivation of Immortality, My Sea of Consciousness Space, which is about traveling through time and cultivating immortality. If you are interested, you can read it. I am quite surprised that a book friend wrote this book. Ha ha. You are indeed here. The old man in white robes stood in the courtyard, looking at Lin Yu calmly. Lin Yu looked solemn as he gradually emerged from his stealth state. This old man is none other than the 7th elder of the Pantheon, who was presiding over the meeting at the festival just now. Lin Yu didn't understand why the other party appeared here, but seeing the other party's look of waiting for a long time, he knew that this was a game against him. Isn't that surprising? The 7th elder smiled slightly and was not in a hurry to take action against Lin Yu, as if everything was under his control. And the way he looked at Lin Yu was full of appreciation. The lords brought up from the lower realm generally have a very good quality, that is, they know how to hide, and they are ruthless enough. It is impossible to attract you without using some strategic means. Even those more than 100 people were captured with great effort on our part. Did they tell you about me? Lin Yu's eyes narrowed. It is not impossible for the great emperor of all realms to leak information about him. He just didn't expect that the other party would actually lay such a dragnet in order to capture him, a 12th level lord, and would even dispatch a 13th level lord. However, it was beyond his expectation. After hearing his question, the other party shook his head. No, even though we used various methods to torture them, and even extract their souls, they did not tell any information about you. The 7th elder's words were full of emotion. Although these lords come from the lower world, after all, They were once the top of the world, and their innate dignity and arrogance are indeed not comparable to those in the gods' realm. But I don't know. After Lin You heard his words, his face became even more serious, tortured in various ways and even extracted his soul, just to find out his whereabouts, and said it so lightly. Damn it, those great emperors, they all died because of him. Gradually, Lin You clenched his fists. The breath all over his body began to stir wildly, and a strong murderous intent emerged in his eyes. However, the seventh elder still looked calm as if he was talking about an insignificant matter. The reason why I know you will appear here is because our pantheon has a treasure of time, given by the Lord God, and we have already planned your arrival, so you'd better hand over the core of the world obediently. That thing is not something you can own. What if I say no? Lin Yu's eyes were filled with chills, and he resisted the urge to take action. Turn out to be, in fact, his every move has been known to the other party for a long time. Is this the difference in strength between him and the Pantheon? Escape? This was his only thought at this time. The moment he finished speaking, he directly activated Wang's instant shadow skill, raising his agility to the extreme, turning into an afterimage and rushing towards the outside of the small courtyard. Give up, you can't escape anymore. The voice of the seventh elder came from behind. Immediately afterwards, two 12th level lords stationed at the door suddenly appeared. Tens of thousands of soldiers had already surrounded the small courtyard, blocking all his escape routes. Get out of my way. Lin You shouted loudly and activated Shadow Kill. His whole body turned into an afterimage and flew behind a soldier on the periphery, punching out. Boom. There was a loud noise, and with double the damage that ignored the defense, the soldier exploded into a ball of blood mist. The powerful repulsive force made Lin You increase his speed even more, and he rushed out of the encirclement in the blink of an eye. But the next second, a vast and boundless pressure swept towards him, and before he had time to react, several sharp golden sword lights appeared in front of him. Hiss! The sound of broken clothes was heard, and Lin You was cut open at the waist, narrowly avoiding the fatal blow. At the same time, his speed was not slow and he continued to escape towards the outside of the Pantheon. But the seventh elder did not give him a chance to escape. As his vision blurred, a large group of 13th level humanoid archers appeared behind him. The bowstrings were fully drawn, and countless sharp arrows were fired at him. So fast, Lin You was shocked. In just a breath, the arrow was already approaching behind him, and the speed was not of the same magnitude at all. Who dared to hesitate? An invisible wave suddenly erupted, covering a 100-meter range around him, instantly slowing down the speed of all arrows by 10 times. The law of time. The core of the world is indeed within you. The seventh elder's eyes flashed brightly, and he finally stopped holding back. He unleashed all his strength and chased after Lin You. However, even if he is 13 levels of strength, he is still affected by the law of time. As soon as he stepped into Lin Yu's 100-meter range, his speed dropped 10 times, only to the level of an ordinary 12th level. Is this the power of time? The seventh elder was frightened and at the same time extremely excited. If he could obtain this power, wouldn't it be? No, absolutely not. Suddenly, a terrifying figure appeared in the seventh elder's mind, which immediately dispelled his greed to monopolize the core of the world. Not even their palace master can afford to offend that being who is eyeing the core of the world. If he dared to touch the core of the world, he would die without knowing how. It's better to exchange it with that person for a reward. It will definitely allow him to upgrade several levels. The more he thought about it, the more excited the seventh elder became, and his eyes became hot when he looked at Lin You. It's useless. The law of time consumes a lot of money. With your strength, you can't sustain it for long. Can't hold on for long? Lin You sneered, and Kui and her multipliers appeared beside him. He immediately activated his solar and lunar eclipse skills, and 2 suns and 2 moons rose into the sky, hovering above his head. When the sun and moon exist at the same time, the effects of all Kui's skills are doubled. The main body and the multiplication body activate the skills at the same time, and the effect is doubled again. The power of the law, which was almost exhausted, began to recover at a rate of 4% per second under the illumination of the sun and moon. Then the photosynthesis skill dropped a 50%, directly restoring his power of law to full value. This is. The seventh elder looked at the sun and moon above Lin You in amazement. Just now, he clearly felt that Lin Yu's power of law was about to be exhausted, but after this, it actually recovered again. What kind of skill is this? Do plant-type soldiers have such perverted energy recovery skills? In shock, he couldn't help but look at Kui next to LinYu, and then his pupils shrank. Royal family, why do you have royal troops? This moment, the seventh elder was really shocked. He is 1 level higher than Lin Yu, so he can naturally detect Kui's attribute information. When I saw the word royal behind Kui's name, I was shocked to the extreme. To know, even their palace master, who is half a foot on the 14th level, only has 1 royal soldier. The lord in front of him, who was only at level 12, actually had arms of this level. How can this be? The Law of Time, as well as the royal arms, actually appeared in a level 3 quasi-god at the same time. What kind of peerless monster is this? No, he must not be allowed to escape. Otherwise, it will definitely become a serious problem for their pantheon in the future. Suddenly, murderous intent burst out in the eyes of the seventh elder, and his aura surged to the extreme, gradually closing the distance between him and Lin You. Lin You cursed secretly, speeded up again, and hurriedly fled outside the pantheon. In his panic, he didn't even notice that he had arrived at the very back of the pantheon, among a group of buildings burning with flames. Earth fire. Lin Yu's eyes lit up as he was escaping, and he plunged into the flame zone without hesitation. At the same time, he activated the Phantom Walker skill, and split into clones under the burning flames. Although the clone has no original space, and cannot use the Law of Time, his basic abilities and skills can be used. After the clone appeared, it rushed towards the pursuing seventh elder, attacked him, and interfered with his actions. Die. The seventh elder raised his arm, and the golden sword light killed several clones at once. But because there were too many clones, he was eventually held back and his speed slowed down. Taking this opportunity, Lin You summoned Swallowing Heaven, and cast the final countdown on Xinkui, restoring her skill status to 1 minute ago. Then activate the solar rays, lunar eclipse, and photosynthesis again, and the power of the law will be fully restored in an instant, and the Law of Time will continue to be maintained. But he didn't dare to take it lightly, because once the Law of Time passed, he would have no means to contain the opponent. The clone and the royal family could not be his opponents at all. In addition, there is a great elder over there who may appear at any time. You have to find a way to get rid of the other party. Master, there is a situation ahead. Just as he was thinking about it, a reminder from Tunton suddenly came from the side. After hearing this, Lin You looked up, and looked not far ahead, and he was shocked to find that in the middle of a blazing area lined with stone pillars, a huge red-bodied creature with the body of a bull-horned demon was tied up with countless chains. Because he discovered that the monster-like figure was actually the monster he saw on the street before, and was escorted back by the Pantheon in a cage. It turned out that he was detained in a place like this. Spending so much energy to suppress this thing was absolutely extraordinary, and he finally found hope of breaking the situation. Since you want to play, then play a big one. With a cold snort, Lin You accelerated towards the bull-headed demon. It was only then that the bull-headed demon, who was bound by chains and had his head lowered, sensed his approach, and suddenly raised his head. When he saw that he was being chased by the elders of the Pantheon, his eyes suddenly glowed red. Human, unlock the seal for me, and I can help you get rid of him. A very majestic and domineering voice came from his mouth, which made Lin You, who was approaching, couldn't help but feel shocked. The strength of this monster was more terrifying than he imagined. The seventh elder who was chasing behind him was shocked and shouted anxiously, "Don't touch that seal. If that monster is released, the entire god's domain will suffer in the future. Go to this god's realm. Everyone wants my life, so just go and die." The encounters along the way finally angered Lin You completely. His eyes were red, and he didn't even bother to think about the meaning of the other party's words. All the strength in his body suddenly exploded, and he punched the nearest stone pillar. The bull-headed demon who was sealed by the chain also had a strange smile on his lips.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.